So today we're going to talk about documentation and different kinds of documentation, what good documentation is, and so on. So as a Ruby developer, documentation can look like this. This is the core Ruby docs. It can also look like this, which is rubydoc.info. It can also look like this, which is Seattle RB's own RDoc thing. It can also look like this, or like this, where you also need JavaScript to make this work, which is kind of nasty. I don't like that. And also, there's a problem with all of these documentation types because eventually this will happen, and then it's not going to be fun. So there are solutions to this. So on the Mac, there is this thing, which is an application called Dash that you can download doc sets to. And the doc sets take the form of HTML archives, I think. And so it can look like this, or it can look like this, which is the Swift documentation, or this, or this. So all of these, like the search interface is the same because it's the same application, but all the documentations, like all the different types of documentation look different because they have a different format. So I think good documentation should be both accessible and have like a uniform format so that it's easy to parse and easy to sort of traverse. So to fix all of these things, there is, for us Ruby developers, there is something called RI. So RI is an application that can give you RDoc documentation through your terminal. So for example, if we want to look at, let's say, object, we just type that in and we get this sort of almost looking like a man page, but it really is just the RDoc parsed right out of the source and then just dumped. It actually looks a lot like the exact thing that is in the source. So yeah, at most we get some bold text here. So this is really good, but there are some problems with this. And one of the problems is that everything, like for example, object gets extended in a lot of different gems. And all of these gem documentation gets sort of squashed together in this one page. So at the top here, this is the Ruby core documentation. So that's good. It's interesting. Has a lot of stuff in there. But then we get to like blank slate, Jekyll, SQL. Like everything is in the same place, and it's sort of messy. And also the formatting is not awesome, I'd say. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. I like that. So like, what do I want is a good question. And while I was programming C, I really like the way that C documentation works. So for C, there are already man pages for your C libraries on your system. So for example, like the standard lib all exists on your system and all that if you install the standard library. So for example, if I want to look at, let's say, printf, I just type man printf. And in this case, I'm actually going to get the command printf, which is in the section 1 of the manual. So this is actually something I'd use for my shell. But if I want to get the pages from the C documentation, I have to go to the section 3 of the manual. And there I can get like the full documentation for the printf function, and also some related functions. So this is great. This documentation is also great. It's lots of it. Describes like every feature of it. It's really long actually. It has examples and all that, and also references to other pages. So this is really convenient. This is really great. So, and what is also nice about man pages is that there is a built-in integration into Vim to access these. So if you in Vim, if you're programming C, if you have your cursor on top of a keyword like this, or a function name or an identifier, if you press capital K, Vim will get you the man page for that. So in this case, since there's a get-hopped command as well, you will get that. But if you want to look at the actual the C documentation for this function, you have to type 3K, 3 capital K, sorry, and you get that documentation. This is really nice. This is really convenient. The man pages have a uniform format. They're already on my system, which is awesome. So I wanted to try to make this happen for Ruby documentation. So therefore, I went ahead and wrote something called rdoc generator mdoc, which is a great name. It's an rdoc generator that creates it generates mdoc from rdoc documentation inside your Ruby source. So mdoc is a format for man pages. It is I think it was introduced in OpenBSD. It's a pretty nice format, and this gem that you can install on your system will let you generate these through the rdoc API, both through your Ruby source or using the rdoc executable that is available if you install the rdoc gem. So to use this, the easiest way, if you're not building something that generates mdoc from within your application, is to call the rdoc executable. So here we do that, and we're currently in the rdoc generator mdoc directory, which will mean that rdoc will try to generate the mdoc documentation for all the classes inside this directory and its subdirectories. So if we press enter here, we'll get some output that tells us that documentation has been generated into the doc directory in this directory. So if we go and look there, we get a man3 folder. And this is sort of a standard in man pages. So if you look where your man pages are in your system, they are sort of divided into directories depending on their section. So the man pages we generated here are put into section 3 rdoc, I think. And the reason for that is we sort of want to section them off from the other man pages on the system so that they won't sort of collide name-wise. And also, this section is actually configurable, so you can pass a -- section to the rdoc command if you want to change that. So if we look inside the man3 folder, we have a bunch of man pages here. And man pages are named with the name of the man page, dot, and then the name of the section. So all of these are in the 3-rdoc section. So we can actually go ahead and open one of these up with man. So if we pass a full path to man, it will actually open it for us. So let's see if I can type here. So let's grab the documentation for the sort of main generator class in this. It looks like this. So in here we get the name of the man page and a short description for it. And then we get the full description, some information about this. So it has a superclass, which is object, some class methods, and we get their signature here as well, which is really convenient. Some information on that, the instance methods, and yeah, in this case, it's about it. In other classes, we might get like what modules are included in the class and so on. But this is a great start. So what you then can do is you can take these man pages and put them in a directory, and you can add that to your man path, which is an environment variable that the man utilities will look at to find your man pages. So let's see if we can look at that. So yeah, so here I have my bashrc. So here I have my man path. So I just export a man path that contains my home/.man, and I've already moved the documentation that we just created into this folder. So if I now type man rdoc generator mdoc, I'll get that same man page, which is pretty convenient. So if we look at this RDoc generator mdoc, we can sort of walk through the source real quick. It's pretty simple. So the way it works is it hooks up into RDoc using a discover.rb that sits in the librdoc directory. So this is found by RDoc and requires it. So if you load RDoc, you now also have the mdoc generator for it. And it all starts out in this class, which is the class we saw the documentation from. So this is actually what gets parsed out into that man page. And this class is pretty simple. All it does is it generates the class and module pages, and then it generates the method pages. So you get one page per class, one page per module, and one page per method inside these classes and modules. So it's a lot of pages, but it's pretty nice because then you can search for all of these terms. So if you search for a class, you'll get a page. If you search for a method on a class, you'll get that page, and so on. So this generator uses some ERB files to generate this documentation. So this is actually mdoc with ERB tags in it. It looks kind of wonky. Mdoc consists of these macros that will do different things. So this is like a date string. This is the section of the man page. This is actually the section and the name of the man page. And then it goes on to fill in this this man page. And inside of these templates, we call out to methods that uses a formatter to format the RDoc documentation. So this is kind of an interesting class because it's implemented using the visitor pattern. So this class will be instantiated, and then RDoc will call these methods on it. And what it'll do, it'll create an array of like of strings that it will like shove stuff into as methods are getting called. So like accept paragraph is when we get a paragraph. So then we want to put the dash pp, or sorry, the .pp macro into the parts, and then at the end we just join all these parts together into the final man page, and then we write that. So it's a pretty simple thing. The only hard part is like coming up with how to parse all the different things, and also there are some bugs in RDoc that you have to sort of avoid, but it's kind of okay. So let's go ahead and look at a way to actually not have to do all of these things. So the like calling out to RDoc to generate documentation for like one single project is kind of fine. But if you want to generate documentation for all the gems you install, that's kind of a hassle to do that for every gem you install, since you, as a Ruby developer, install gems all the time. So for that, I've built this Ruby Gems plugin called gman for generate man pages. What it'll do is it'll take, you supply it a gem, or if you don't supply it a gem, it will generate man pages for everything. And it will also hook into, like when you install a gem, it will actually generate documentation for that when you install it automatically. So, but for example, say we want to generate the documentation for active record. This is how we do it. So we get some nice errors there. Don't mind them. And then it takes a while because it's a big library. And now it generated man pages for that, and it stuck it into my .man directory, which means that we can now do man active record base, and we get this. So yeah, it's pretty big page. It includes a lot of modules. And so one interesting thing with this Ruby Gems plugin is that it will put these man pages in a section specific to the gem and version. So as you see here down in the extended or included modules, it will say like this includes active record chord, which can be found in the 3 Ruby Gems active record 410 section of the manual. So then you can go and look that up if you want more information about that. Yeah, so this Gman gem is even simpler than the generator. So all it does is that it registers a command in the gem command manager, and it also creates a post install hook where it will run this command for the given gem that was installed. And this command is really simple. All it does is it will get one optional argument, and if it gets one, it will generate documentation for that gem. Otherwise, it will document all the gems. And generating documentation is basically running RDoc, which will, this is kind of hairy. This is the RDoc interface. It's what you would give RDoc on the command line, but you give it in an array. So that's a thing. So this will generate documentation for a specific gem. Cool. So something that is really cool with the manual system on your system is that there is something called a man-db, and this is what is fueling commands like apropos. So for example, on your system, you can type apropos unzip, and then you will get a list of all the man pages that is sort of related to unzip. So you can also do like apropos active record, and since I have a lot of man pages generated for active record, this will create a long list like this. And so if I'm looking for something specific, this is not very convenient to look through all of this. So instead, I have created a small script called pickman, where you can pick a man page to look at. So if I run this, it will present me with a search interface where I can search for the specific man page I want. So for example, if I want active record base, so this is like a fuzzy search, and then I can get the version I want. So I want 418, sorry. And this will give me the man page. And when I quit out of here, I'm back at the command line. This shell script is super simple. It will get all your man pages from apropos. It will pipe it through a little C program that I wrote to sort of change the output of apropos into something we can pipe into a tool called pick, which is also a thing I wrote. It's a fuzzy selector written in C. So it's very much like if you used something called selecta, which is a thing Gary Bernhardt wrote. It's a sort of a Ruby implementation of this. So this would be the C implementation of that, which was needed because if you have, for example, like 200,000 man pages on your system because you generated one for every Ruby method that you have for all your gems, the selecta application can't really handle that. It will be super slow. And I think that's mainly because it's written in Ruby. So I rewrote it in C, and in this case, pick will accept all of the man pages. So the output of filter would be like the name of a man page, and then a space, and then a section. So pick with the D and O option will accept the first thing as the search string, and the second field as the description. So when I run this, it will give me, on the left, it will give me the man page name, and on the right, it will give me the section name. And the nice thing with separating these into a search string and a description is that because of the fuzzy select algorithm, long strings will rank lower. So if you have the section as searchable, then for example, like if I would type time, the Ruby one would be at the bottom of this because it's so long, because the section is so long. So in this case, the section is there just as a description of the actual man page. So yeah, and that's pretty much is it. The pick utility will print the name of the man page and the section when it exits, and then I pipe that through tac, which will reverse them, and then I pipe it through xargs man, which will give them as arguments to man. So that will give you, like, if you selected time in 3 Ruby 2.1.0, it will give man the 3 Ruby 2.1.0 as the first argument, as the section, and then the name of the time class that you selected. So all of this is fueled by pick, which is a tool that you can use for other stuff as well. It's really a general purpose tool. I think the best description of it is in the man page. There are some examples what you can do with it. For example, you can find all the files in your directory, pick one of them and send it to xtg open, or open if you're on OS X, and that will open the file you selected. So it's a pretty neat tool. As of now, the only tool that is open source and available to everyone is the rdoc generator mdoc, but I'm working on getting the other ones released as well, and hopefully also my shell script that makes it easy to use this. So that's it.
Cool.
Thanks.
Cool.